burned about 15,000 acres since starting this afternoon. Evacuation orders are in place for the Camarillo Springs area. Some structures are reportedly burning. In Butte County, the campfires forced thousands to evacuate. Reporter Will Carr says that's creating a traffic jam trying to leave.
Some drivers trapped in their cars, others abandoning their vehicles and taking refuge wherever they can.
Southbound from Feather River Hospital on 10th is all blocked by fire.
More than 18,000 acres have burned in the campfire. In Thousand Oaks, investigators are still dealing with the mass shooting at a nightclub that killed 12 people last night. A gunman walked in and started shooting people. One of those killed was 22-year-old Cody Kaufman. His father, Jason, is devastated.
This is going to be an absolute heart-wrenching time for me and my family.
Another one of those killed was Ventura County Sheriff Sergeant Ron Heelis, a 29-year veteran of the department. Steve Clausen, California News.
As we head into the holiday season, so many think of ways to reach out to those less fortunate.
It's time now for Geico's Off the Court Shout-Out.
Pro basketball players recently proved they are more than just glossy stats and million-dollar contracts. A number of all-stars got together to help out at a Los Angeles area food bank. Some of the biggest names in the game, packing food boxes, packing trucks, and giving words of encouragement to those in need.
Geico could assist you in saving lots of money on your car insurance. Go right now to geico.com for all the details.
A good night's sleep starts with the right pillow. That's where MyPillow comes in, and we're excited to announce the new 4-pack special. Go to MyPillow.com, click on the 4-pack special tab, and save 50% off the 4-pack, which includes 2 MyPillow premiums and 2 Go Anywhere pillows. Call 1-800-266-4719. That's 1-800-266-4719. Take advantage of this limited time offer. Go to MyPillow.com now. Click on the 4-pack special tab and use promo code COMFORT at checkout.
From the KCAA Weather Center, I'm Rod Tanner. For tonight, we'll have clear skies at a low of 53. We have a red flag warning in effect for critical fire danger into Friday evening. We also have a high wind warning in effect through Friday afternoon. We'll have sunny skies on Friday with a high of 79. Friday night looks to be clear with a low of 49. We'll have a sunny Saturday, our high 78. For Veterans Day on Sunday, we'll have sunshine, our high 79. I'm Rod Tanner, broadcasting live from the Tri-City Center with the 10 and 210 freeways. We are the trifecta of talk in Southern California. KCAA 102.3 FM Riverside, 106.5 FM Redlands, and the Legacy 1050 AM Loma Linda, San Bernardino.
Erin here from On the Brink Morning Show, where we talk about all that is engaging in the Inland Empire. News, politics, business, family, things to do, and so much more. Join us weekdays from 6 to 7 a.m. on KCAA 102.3 FM, 106.5 FM, and 1050 AM, or on KCAAradio.com.
This is KCAA.
Are you ready for a new experience? To see life from another point of view? New hope, new expression, new joy. This is your radio hour. Welcome to Viewpoint with Father John.
And welcome. You are tuned to KCAA Radio, 1050 AM, 102.3 FM, 106.5 FM, or on the World Wide Web at KCAAradio.com. This is Viewpoint with Father John, and I am your host, Father John Reed. By the way, you can follow this show on Facebook at Viewpoint with Father John. All of God's children are endowed with extraordinary purpose and ability. I'm on a quest to help as many as possible in fully realizing their divinely inspired potential. Disposing a false narrative and embracing genuineness inspires clarity of purpose. My role is to help overcome self-imposed limitations in realizing one's spiritual potential. And this show is listener supported, so if you go to www.viewpointwithfatherjohn.com, click on the support button, you can help keep us on the air. Again, that's www.viewpointwithfatherjohn.com. It's all one word. And speaking of keeping us on the air, talk to you about our sponsor. This portion of the show is brought to you in part by Draper and Kramer Mortgage Corporation, the name you've trusted for over 100 years. If you're looking to refinance or purchase a home, contact my friend Early Gonzalez at 888-284-8332. That's 888-284-8332, and that's also on our website. You can also go to mortgagesbyernie.com. Tell them Father John sent you. Draper and Kramer Mortgage Corporation, NMLS 2251, is licensed by the Department of Business Oversight under the California Residential Mortgage Lending Act. Ernie Gonzalez, NMLS 1086147, They're an equal housing lender. And again, I really recommend going to them because I've known Ernie for a while. He truly is an honest man. He'll treat you right. Tell him I said hi. In the news tonight, really sad news. Last night there was another mass shooting. I don't know if you know this, but it's over 300 mass shootings this year alone. This is really a problem. And there was 13 killed, including the gunman. One of the people who died was a sergeant from the sheriff's department. And then, of course, the shooter took his own life. So if you would keep them in prayer, and in that same area, they're having forest fires, brush fires right now, and they're really having a tough time with these winds getting through them. So keep all these people in your prayers. I would really appreciate it. Announcement for an upcoming event on December 6th of this year at 6 p.m. I will be celebrating the candlelight service for Mountain View Mortuary and Cemetery in San Bernardino. Come on down. Like I said, it starts at 6. If you go between now and about 2 weeks before that date, you can take pictures of your loved ones who've passed within the last year or 2 years, and they'll include those in the video show that they'll be doing, the DVD presentation. So they'll be viewed by everybody, and we can come spend some time together, pray together, and honor our loved ones who have passed in the last year to 2 years together. Speaking of such, tonight my guest is my good friend Jack Jimenez. He's a certified grief counselor, a life coach, and artist. A very good artist, by the way, I might add. I've seen some of his work. And so tonight we're going to be talking about getting through the holidays with our grief. And so, Jack, welcome to the show. Say hello to everybody.
Thank you very much, John, and I'm thrilled to be here.
Well, glad to have you. Now, grief during the holidays is, from what I understand, is a little different than the rest of the year because the expectations we put on the days coming up, the dynamics of different families, if you have a healthy family opposed to a family that's filled with dysfunction, all kinds of different things. So let's talk a little bit about holiday grief.
I would have to say that around the holidays is when people get the most triggered from grief, because truly the old analogy of the ghosts of Christmas past, they all come up to haunt us, and all of the dysfunction in families rises to the surface and puts people into almost a depression instead of being thrilled at the holidays.
Sure. And for the listeners, I just want to explain that depression is different than a little bit of sadness. There are times that we just feel a little bit blue. That's one thing. Everybody goes through that. Depression can actually be physical as well as emotional. If you find that you can't get out of bed or you find that you can't get off the couch, you really want to, your body won't do it. Can you talk to that just a little bit?
Sure. Again, there's the different manifestations of depression and grief. And in our society, we don't have many mechanisms to be able to grieve even the deaths of somebody, because that's a very short time frame where people are reasonable and want to listen to you. But even say Christmas, because everybody has these expectations that Christmas is wonderful.
Sure.
Well, in my house my family of origin, we literally did not celebrate a single holiday, birthdays, Christmas, anything from the age of 4 to 24.
Was that because of the different violent things going on in the house, or what kept you from celebrating?
It was mainly the conflict between my parents, and my mother, by the time I was 7, was a full-blown alcoholic, and my father became one when I was about 14. And they came from very, very poverty backgrounds. And my father's theory was, if I didn't have it, why should they?
Sure.
And my mom wanted to overdo it, and then they just would get into it so much that she just finally just said, we're not doing this at all.
Yeah, she would clash a whole lot. Well, in addition to the depression, there's other emotions that people go through. There's the numbness sometimes there's the anger, there's trying to negotiate. I know one of the problems that I get a lot in my counseling practice is people not knowing how to state what their needs are during the holidays. You want to speak to that a little bit?
Sure. I would have to say that the three enemies of Christmas are unrealistic expectations, overcommitment, and assumptions. And we all get caught up in the past. And once bad things happen, we almost get into roles. And when we're with family of origin again, we start playing out those old roles all over again. And it creates a lot of frustration, people giving up, and a lot of anger. And in alcoholic households, that's when the alcohol and drug use occurs the most.
Sure. And also, when you say the assumptions, sometimes people assume other people know what their needs are, that they should know that I'm going through this, I'm feeling that. In reality, we don't know what other people need. We try to anticipate, but if we don't learn to voice those needs, people can't help meet those needs. So what's some advice that you give some of the people that you work with going through this type of situation during the holidays?
Literally to do some writing on the subject. What are my triggers for Christmas? Mm-hmm. What are my expectations? How can I, knowing that we can't change another person, but we can only change our reactions. So what can I do small? Because if we start with something large, you're pretty much guaranteed it's not going to work.
Right.
But if you can do a small adjustment, and that adjustment comes from both directions. It comes from other people and it comes from us. Mm-hmm. Because we throw out a lot of hostility, bad vibrations, bad feelings, and then each one just plays on the other. So we have to start small.
Sure. I also find, and like to get your thoughts on this, is that a lot of people are afraid to bring up the name of the deceased because it's going to cause hurt feelings. And I try to tell people that I work with, particularly if I'm doing a grief group, know it's important to talk about the person who died, because if you talk about their death, maybe you can talk about their life. And then we don't have to have an elephant in the room that everybody's afraid to mention, because if you talk about the elephant, you're the one who has to take it out. And so what do you tell people regarding that?
Again, you're absolutely right. And having a support group is of vital importance, and somebody that will allow you to have your feelings, whatever they are,
right,
for as long as you have them. I have a good friend that lost his wife 4 years ago.
Right.
And I'll tell you what, he's still in prime grief at this point,
sure,
even after all this time. And we have to realize that we have to process these feelings. And you can only process them if you're talking about them.
Right.
If you're not communicating, what you're going to do is you're going to find yourself removing yourself further and further back and isolating. And that's the worst thing that anybody can do in relationship to grief.
And, you know, time is a relevant thing because each of us has to get better on our own timeline. I can remember when I was a hospice chaplain and I was training on the topic of bereavement. They taught us that common grief, because there's no such thing as normal grief. We each grieve in our own way. But common grief is a minimum of 3 to 5 years. And that's just to really get through the toughest part. It never goes away completely. It gets so we're used to where that scar is. And a scar is a place that marks where we have been wounded. And so if we can learn to appreciate the scar, acknowledge the scar, then we can live with the scar, from what I understand.
Well, again, going back to grief counseling, when you're able to process your feelings and realize that you could have feelings stored in yourself going back as old as you are. I'm 69 years old now, And some of those old feelings go back at least 60 plus years.
Sure.
Now, until I process that in a safe environment, and I can't stress that safe environment enough, if you can process them, then you can work past. And as you said, John, people get stuck in, say, how the person died.
Right.
That last day, that last hour, and then they obsess on it. If you can talk about it, process it, you also process the good memories.
Yes.
And then you can look at the whole entire relationship instead of just these little pieces that you're consumed with your grief.
Yeah, and it goes back, if I can get biblical on this, Book of Ecclesiastes, that for everything there's a season, time for planting, time for harvesting, time for living, time for dying. Within that, there's also the time for grieving and a time for restarting. And that's really what grief is it's restarting from a different place in life from where you were before. And that can be really difficult, particularly if you're taught don't trust, don't talk, don't feel. And to get through this, you have to trust, you have to talk, you have to feel. And that could be a foreign language. And you said something very important about a safe environment. Now, one of the things that I had to learn in my case is that I can love people I share DNA with, but I can't necessarily help them. I could be supportive, but for real work to take place, I can't be my son's priest. I can't be my son's therapist. I could be his dad and love him and encourage him to get to a safe place where he could talk about these things. And that's why I think what you do as a grief counselor is so important, because people in my family, I want to send to somebody else so that they can have someone who's objective and safe. And because I find when listening to family, I don't just hear them, I hear what I hope for them. So, well, we're coming up on our first commercial break. My guest tonight is Jack Jimenez, a certified grief counselor, a life coach, and artist. And we'll come back with our conversation after the break. We'll see you in 2 and 2.
The loss of a loved one is one of the most challenging experiences in a person's life. It's hard to know where to turn to make your loved one's final arrangements. Jesse Ruiz at Personal Funeral Planning in Ontario will treat you and your loved one with the respect you deserve. Jesse served in the Marine Corps in Desert Storm and understands what it takes to provide loyal, personalized, and empathetic service to those who need it most. The families of Michael Jackson, Brittany Murphy, Ed McMahon, and many others have trusted Jesse to provide them with the highest level of service and support. To work with Jesse, call 909-762-4027, 909-762-4027, or visit their website, www.4pfp.org. www.4pfp as in personalfuneralplanning.org. Jesse Ruiz and Personal Funeral Planning, veteran-owned and operated, helping you plan a personal, lasting tribute for your loved one. www.4pfp.org.
NBC News Radio, I'm Lisa Carter. The community of Thousand Oaks, California is mourning the deaths of 12 people murdered overnight at a bar. Mayor Andy Fox looking to inspire hope at a vigil with community and religious leaders tonight.
Hope is what allows us to believe that there is a better life. Hope is what allows us to go on.
Hundreds of college students were packed into the Borderline Bar and Grill when a gunman dressed in all black opened fire on them. The FBI has joined the investigation. The Democratic candidate for U.S. Senate in Arizona is increasing her lead tonight. Congresswoman Kirsten Sinema was trailing Republican Martha McSally for most of the day, but moved past McSally when both Maricopa and Pima counties reported their latest updates. They're the counties that include the state's two largest metropolitan areas in Phoenix and Tucson. Sinema's lead over McSally is 9,000 votes, with more votes still to be counted. Lisa Carter, NBC News Radio.
If you're looking for a full or part-time sales position and you have radio, TV, or print media experience, KCAA has a great opportunity waiting for you that pays the highest commissions in the market. KCAA is the only station in the IE that broadcasts on 3 frequencies, so advertisers receive 3 ads for 1 low rate. This makes KCAA a must-buy for every local business. If you're interested in a sales position with us, email CEO@kcaaradio.com.
Hey guys, this is Andrew Caravella. Just wanted to let you know that KCAA has a new listener line for all of you that have a phone. Now you can listen to KCAA in the grocery store, in the doctor's office, or when you want to pretend you're on the phone with someone just so that creeper will leave you alone. Call 720-835-3099 today and listen to your favorite KCAA radio shows. That number again, 720-835-3099. KCAA Radio, the station that leaves no caller or listener behind.
And welcome back. You are tuned to KCAA Radio, 1050 AM, 102.3 FM, 106.5 FM, on the World Wide Web at kcaaradio.com. This is Viewpoint with Father John, and I'm your host, Father John Reed. This portion of the show is being brought to you by Draper and Kramer Mortgage Corporation, the name you've trusted for over 100 years. If you're looking to refinance or purchase a home, contact my friend Early Gonzalez at 888-284-8332. Again, that's 888-284-8332, or online at mortgagesbyernie.com. Tell them that Father John sent you. Draper and Kramer Mortgage Corporation, NMLS 2551, is licensed by the Department of Business Oversight under the California Residential Mortgage Lending Act. Ernie Gonzalez, NMLS 1086147, an equal housing lender. And if you missed the phone number, you can go to www.viewpointwithfatherjohn.com, and they are listed there as a sponsor of our show. And while you're there, click the support button and help them support the show while you're there. You can also see what's going on with upcoming events, such as the one on the 6th of next month at 6 p.m. at Mountain View Cemetery and Mortuary, where we're doing the candlelight service. Come on in and spend some time with us as we start the holidays with some hot cocoa and some refreshments and sharing memories and love and prayer. Tonight, my guest is Jack Jimenez, certified grief counselor, also a life coach, and now an award-winning artist. Didn't you get an award on that piece of art? I saw that was so beautiful with the tiger.
I actually entered my first piece that I had done in 62 years at an accredited show, and they could either accept your piece of work or turn it down. They accepted it. I didn't win any awards, but I won the award from getting it in there and having enough confidence to say, yes, I'll show it.
Well, it was a beautiful piece of art. I did go see it, and I'm very proud of you. You did very well on that.
Thank you.
Our topic this night, for anyone who's just tuning in, is getting through the holidays with grief. This is one of the things that Jack specializes in. And so, what are some to-dos to get through the holidays? Now, you talked about writing lists. What about getting in touch with a list of what your needs are to tell other people? What do you do with that?
Again, I think it's vitally important to remember to go slow, because people in general don't like change. And those other people in your family, they're not doing the changing, you're doing the changing.
Right.
So if you go in charging on your white horse and say, I demand this, this, and this, it's not going to happen.
Right. Right. And that's an important thing. There's a difference between letting people know what your needs are and demanding things of people. But again, I think until you know what your needs are, you really can't communicate them in the first place. So it's important to find out what those are. One of the things that I found helpful for some people, not everybody, but for some people, is that if this is the first year since the death, to set a place at the table for the person who has died so that you can honor them with that space. Do you do any of that with some of your clients?
I would say definitely. What I don't encourage people to do is go into our old family structure of once somebody's gone, you never talk about them. They become a ghost, another ghost of Christmases past. We can validate them, honor them, and even tell funny stories or commiserate on their strengths and who they were and their good points. And I realize, coming from an alcoholic background, sometimes that's a stretch. But it's up to me. If there's going to be change, I have to initiate it. Now, after I had mentioned that I didn't have many holidays for years, and then I did some grief recovery work. And what I did after that is I started having Christmas Eve at my house. Now, the other subject that we would have to bring up is boundaries.
Sure.
And a lot of folks cannot set a boundary.
That's true.
And what I did is I invited everybody to my house, and I said, there will be no drinking. I do not offer alcohol at my home. If you came to my doorstep and you had been drinking and I could tell it, I would ask you to leave. And it changed the entire dynamic. And one of the things that fascinated me is that me and my father had some major issues, but when he came, he was a different person, and I had to think, what changed?
Sure.
I changed. I was no longer making pot shots at him, so he didn't have to defend himself. So he could just be who he was. And that was a real eye-opener, because that was something that I had done.
Right.
And I didn't even realize it.
Sure. Now, that makes absolute sense. And for people who aren't in the alcoholic environment, sometimes a toast to the person can be okay. But if you are dealing in an addiction home, I certainly would stay away from the different chemicals, that's for sure. It could ruin a really good night. You know, it's never a good party when the police show up. So
absolutely, but there's Martinelli's sparkling cider.
Yes, sir.
And you just get a couple bottles of that, and you can toast, enjoy it, and nobody has an altered personality.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And it's important, I find, for people to pay attention to each other. Acknowledge that there's going to be times that we need quiet. There's going to be times that we have to set up a boundary of, I can only stay for an hour or whatever that is, so that you know what you can do and what you can't do. And you've heard me say this a million times, that I reserve the right to change my opinion tomorrow based on new information. And so if I get to a place and I find that I'm just not ready for this yet, it's okay to put the brakes on and say, you know what, I'm going to come back on another day. This is not safe for me yet. I'm still too raw. Do you get some of that with some of your clients?
Absolutely. That is a very common feeling. And from people that have come from those backgrounds, they don't know how to protect themselves and say, you hurt my feelings. I'm not up for this. I have to take a rain check. And absolutely, John's right in the time frame. A lot of families that I experienced, I wouldn't want to spend the entire day with them. There's too much going on. There's too much chaos and drinking and a lot of other things, so I stay as long as I'm comfortable. And another thing is we have to learn how to receive.
Yes.
Many people don't know how to receive. That's and true. Say, this is what I need.
Yes. Yes. How do you feel about letter writing? When there's unresolved grief, sometimes I find it helpful for me. Like, I was very close to my uncle, and he was the one who saw me through seminary and other things. And there are times I find I really miss him, so I sit down and I write him a letter. And then I put it in my God box, I leave it there for a couple weeks, and I take it out and burn it, because in my estimation, he's read it. I believe that we live in a spiritual universe. Do you find letter writing helpful in the process of grief?
When I do my grief counseling, which is usually about 7 weeks. At the end, you do write a letter. A letter with the expectation no one will ever read it. You are not sending it. You're doing it to get your feelings down, to say the I love yous, thank you for doing this, I'm sorry for this, and you get all those feelings out. Now you share it in the group, or you share it with your grief counselor.
Right.
And it's part of processing grief. So it's not accumulative. Because what I discovered when I've been doing this for over 20 years is that I had over 50 years of accumulated garbage that I had never processed. And this is very true with the holidays.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, people are talking about their holidays, and I'm going, we didn't do holidays for 23 years.
Sure.
And people look at you like, oh my God, you're kidding. And when somebody says something like that, they're not doing it because they want you to say, oh, you poor thing. They just don't know what to do with it.
Right. Well, we live in a culture that doesn't deal with grief very well. A lot of the anger we see, in my estimation, is unprocessed grief coming out as anger. You know, and you and I have talked about this in the past, how cultures have changed. 50 years ago, many houses, particularly in the Midwest, have a room they call the parlor. And not only did they have parties in the parlor, but when somebody died, the family usually would wash and dress the body, put it in the parlor. They would have what we call a wake. And we used to joke about the difference between an Irish wake and an Irish wedding is at the wake there's one less drunk. And so, and they could talk openly about death, but you couldn't talk about sex. It was taboo. Now, 50 years later, you can't drive down the freeway without seeing a gentleman's club sign, people talking about sex on television and radio, but you can't talk about grief. You can't talk about your feelings. You have to, dummy up for it, as they used to say. And that's very unhealthy because it has to go somewhere. And what I have found, and I'm sure you've seen this as well, it either comes out as anger, it comes out that we go into deep depression, it comes out in a heart attack, a stroke, cancer. So
absolutely, those are the result of a lot of repressed anger, grief, just in general, an accumulation of feelings that we're not allowed to get out.
Right.
And express and say, I'm feeling sad. And again, going back to this friend of mine that lost his wife 4 years ago, he doesn't even like to mention it because he gets all these reactions. Well, how long's it been? It's been 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
And he says, she's the love of my life, and she will be until the day I die.
Yes.
So that's not going to change.
Right.
But the ability to be able to talk about it. And there's specific verbiage that I learned, even I, in my ignorance, would say to people, they're in a better place.
Sure.
No, you don't say that. I know how you're feeling. No, you don't.
That's correct.
What I've learned to say is I am so sorry to hear of your loss, and if you want to talk more about it, let me know.
Yeah. And, that's one of the best approaches. And I sometimes find that the best things that are said are things that aren't said. And what I mean by that is there have been people that all they needed me to do was put my arm around them and just sit quietly with them and let them process without flooding them with advice. Because we are in a fixer climate. We automatically want to fix people because we can't deal with people having pain. So as soon as they tell us something, well, here's the Band-Aid for it. You said so well, when they say, well, they're in a better place. And with all the funerals I do, I hear that quite often. And I tell the people I work with, yeah, they might be in a better place, but it's okay to miss them right now. Because right now is when you need them, no matter where they might be. So what are some of the processes leading up to this to make it a healthy bereavement?
Again, when I do my grief processing, I will have the clients do a complete history graph, and think about that for how old you might be to this day. And you have grief going back to your first dawn of memory, and mine was about 5 or 6 years old, to the current.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and it's anything that still causes you pain. You know, I chuckle because I have big ears. Well, when I was 5 years old, the movie Dumbo came out. And let me tell you, that was my downfall.
Sure.
Because I heard about that constantly. Kids are mean.
Yes.
And I had that as part of my grief. I had to talk about that to say that it caused me pain and to be able to process it again. Once you've been able to, and then once you've done this graph, and it's very painful, brings up a lot of stuff.
Life map, yeah.
But what you find out is a lot of these things, you're going to feel them for the first time. Because when it happened, you weren't allowed to have any feelings on it.
Right.
And I've worked with people that had something that was 30 years old.
Yes.
And they have this immense amount of feelings and pain that they have connected with it. But at the end of this process, because once you do this grief history chart, you take every single element that you have on this chart and you break it up to significant emotional statements, forgivenesses, and basically processing all of them.
Mm-hmm.
And you do a letter and you share that letter. And one of the biggest components of grief recovery is it's not complete until you share it with another human being.
Right. Right. Well, speaking of sharing with another human being, we're coming up to our next break. My guest this evening is Mr. Jack Jimenez. He's a grief counselor, also a life coach, and an artist. So we'll see you in 2 and 2.
KCAA Loma Linda, 1050 AM, K292FQ Riverside, and K293CF Moreno Valley.
The loss of a loved one is one of the most challenging experiences in a person's life. It's hard to know where to turn to make your loved one's final arrangements. Jesse Ruiz at Personal Funeral Planning in Ontario will treat you and your loved one with the respect you deserve. Jesse served in the Marine Corps in Desert Storm and understands what it takes to provide loyal, personalized, and empathetic service to those who need it most. The families of Michael Jackson, Brittany Murphy, Ed McMahon, and many others have trusted Jesse to provide them with the highest level of service and support. To work with Jesse, call 909-762-4027, 909-762-4027, or visit their website, www.4pfp.org. www.4pfp as in personalfuneralplanning.org. Jesse Ruiz and Personal Funeral Planning, veteran-owned and operated, helping you plan a personal, lasting tribute for your loved one. www.4pfp.org.
Welcome to another edition of The More You Know, where every day is a great day. I'm Andrew Caravella. National Cappuccino Day. Of course, November 8th would be such an awesome day like that. A nice hot cup of cappuccino is perfect on a frosty morning. I mean, traditionally prepared with espresso hot milk and steamed milk foam, a cappuccino is an Italian coffee drink. Fun fact, late 1990s to early 2000s, cappuccinos became popular in the U.S. concurrent with the boom in the American coffee industry. The start of the 21st century, a modified shortcut version of the cappuccino started being served at fast food chains. I mean, you know, also, if you go to a Starbucks or like a coffee bean, a skilled barista may create artistic shapes like leaves or hearts while he or she is pouring milk on top of the espresso coffee. Now, while steaming the milk, you must pay close attention to attain the correction ratio of foam, thus making the cappuccino one of the most difficult espresso-based beverages to make properly. It's almost like I've done this before. Also on this day, famous chef Gordon Ramsay was born, so happy birthday to him. Also, Mickey Adams, an English footballer and manager, died on this day. Doc Holliday, American gambler and dentist. I'm Andrew Caravella, and this has been The More You Know.
If you're looking for a full or part-time sales position and you have radio, TV, or print media experience, KCAA has a great opportunity waiting for you that pays the highest commissions in the market. KCAA is the only station in the IE that broadcasts on 3 frequencies, so advertisers receive 3 ads for 1 low rate. This makes KCAA a must-buy for every local business. If you're interested in a sales position with us, email CEO@kcaaradio.com.
And welcome back. You are tuned to KCAA Radio, 1050 AM, 102.3 FM, 106.5 FM, or on the World Wide Web at kcaaradio.com. This is Viewpoint with Father John, and I am your host, Father John Reed. And this portion of the show is being brought to you by Draper & Kramer Mortgage Corporation, the name you've trusted for over 100 years. If you're looking to refinance or purchase a home, contact my friend Ernie Gonzalez at 888-284-8332. Again, that's 888-284-8332, or online at mortgagesbyernie.com. Tell them Father John sent you. Draper & Kramer Mortgage Corporation, NMLS 2551. Is licensed by the Department of Business Oversight under the California Residential Mortgage Lending Act. Ernie Gonzalez, NMLS 1086147, equal housing lender. And also, want to give a shout out to our fantastic board operator, Nick. How are you doing tonight, Nick?
I'm stupendous.
Stupendous. Well, I thought you were smarter than that, but that's good. But thanks for sharing.
Well, I have no good comeback for that.
Yeah,
I just ran into that.
I just pulled that out of a Cracker Jacks box. It worked out well. Yeah. So I appreciate everything that Nick does, and shout out to Gabby, the brains in this operation, and keeps me here. Make sure I wear a clean shirt, and smells good too. Wow, must be using Gain. And so, or do I have too much Gain on the microphone? What are you saying?
You're good.
You're good. We're good. That's nice. And if you're looking for a really good book to read, I want to, of course, do some shameless self-promotion. As you can see if you're watching on YouTube or on live Facebook, my book, Close Your Eyes So You Can See Me. It's by your favorite priest and author, John B. Reed. Be sure to get your copy from Amazon.com or BarnesandNoble.com or any online seller. It is easy to get globally. I'm glad it's gone global, too. My guest tonight is Mr. Jack Jimenez, who is a certified grief counselor, a life coach, and an artist. And before we get back into our conversation, some of you will be really excited to know that Dr. John Smith will be back next week with his book, The Authentic Man, Guide for Happiness and Purpose, which is a book I'm almost finished reading, and it is a fabulous book. Women, if you're looking for a gift to get your man to help him be better for the holidays, I highly recommend that book. And, you shouldn't break up a set, so get him a copy of my book as well. And so, Jack, welcome back to the show.
Thank you.
And, remembering people is so important. I've been told that we suffer 2 deaths. First is physical, and the other death is when the last person speaks our name. And so during the holidays, what do you recommend for people to keep this person with us?
Again, and I keep coming back to this like a broken record, when you've done the grief recovery, it changes how you remember them.
Right.
You remember the whole person. You remember the funny times. You remember how much you love them. You don't remember when they're in the stages of dying from horrible cancer.
Right.
You remember the whole person. And it's quite all right to write them a Christmas card. Obviously, it's never going to be sent, but it's okay to do it.
Sure.
If they're buried somewhere, there's nothing wrong with going to the gravesite, having a chat with them, leaving a Christmas wreath or whatever.
Sure.
But just to acknowledge and do a meditation there.
Yes.
Get in contact. Again, you're not making contact with the grief. You're making contact with a wonder of who that person was as a whole, not just an event.
Absolutely. And I love the part about visiting the graveside. For those who have that, some people do scatterings at sea and such. But one of the things I've seen at a lot of cemeteries, which I think is a healthy thing to do, is they have the vase for the flowers, and sometimes instead of flowers, they'll put a note there and leave it there as a way of communicating. Whatever is working for you, use. Because two different people have two different needs and two different methods to get better with. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely, I'd agree with that. And I really want to note to expand the concept of grief to, okay, a death, okay, that's one form. There's a divorce. There's being raised in an alcoholic household. There's losses involved.
Loss of job.
I also want to acknowledge all the people that their pets mean so much to them.
Yes.
And that's not to be minimized.
Sure.
Because you have people that can't have children and their children are their pets. And that's legitimate grief. And it's not to be minimized, made less than. It is another form of grief that should be acknowledged.
Well, and speaking of that, we had a cat for 19, just under 20 years. Her name was Sassy. And she was a member of our family. And when she died, my son, Gabby, and I, we all grieved Sassy. And I still have dreams of Sassy from time to time. She is a member of the family. And as you know, Boo is a member of the family now. For those of you who don't know Boo, Boo's our sparrow that we rescued 17 months ago, who's become a member of the family. She refuses to leave, and that's just fine with us. No, she's not in a cage. I can't cage an animal. And I'll tell you, we've had her for just 17 months, and if anything happened to her, I would be devastated because how much I love that little bird. She, in the morning when she comes up and gives me kisses on the cheek as I sit down and do my prayer and meditation, it's beautiful. So talk a little bit more about with the animals. I know you have a close relationship with your horse.
I have always had a lot of animals. I'm blessed to the fact that I live on a half an acre. We have 2 horses, about 14 chickens, 2 doves, 2 dogs, and a cat, a partridge, and a pear tree. And we absolutely love it. So animals are important. Well, me and my wife went through a series where we rescued older dogs. And because nobody wants them.
Sure.
Well, I'll tell you what. I was in the room when we had to put all 3 of them down.
Oh, my goodness.
I bawled my eyes out.
Sure.
I think I cried more for those 3 dogs than I did when my dad passed away. Because he was older. And after that, I said, I can't do another old dog for a while. We got to get one that's young and it's going to be around for a while. I can't take this. But that's legitimate. There's no minimizing that. That's just as painful.
Sure.
And they're a part of your heart. So again, widening that concept of grief, it comes in thousands of different forms.
Mm-hmm.
Death is just a mere one of them. And there are many, many, many forms.
Nick, did you have an experience you wanted to share with us?
Oh, I just wanted to chime in for a second on the subject of pets. That I currently own 1 cat.
Yes.
Her name is Kaylee. She's 14 years old. I've had her since she was a 6-week-old kitten. Love her to death. She is, her and my wife. We share an apartment, and that's my happy place. The 3 of us together.
Sure.
Anything were to happen to her, and I've been thinking about it more and more often now that she's in her teens now. She's got more years behind her than she does ahead of her. I can't even bear the thought of losing her. And cats have this this sort of, even talking about it, cats have this stigma about them.
Sure.
That they're not loving, that they're not. That couldn't be farther from the truth.
That's right.
They just show it differently than dogs. It's less overt than dogs. It's not as easy as dogs, but they do.
And when a cat claims you, the cat absolutely claims you.
That's it. Yeah. Once you got that trust, I mean, you're in.
When Gabby and I first got together, there was a little marking of territory between Gabby and Sassy. And when Gabby would stroke my beard, Sassy would get on my chest and swat at her hand until Gabby totally been accepted. But still, she would always go to sleep between us. After we're married and everything, Sassy made it real clear she was the first woman in the house. But I'll tell you what, Gabby came to love Sassy, and Sassy came to love Gabby. And
same with my wife and Kaylee.
Yeah.
My wife. It took my wife a long time to warm up to Kaylee, and now, I mean, she went from just a few years ago calling her, your cat, talking to me, to our cat,
yeah,
or my cat. So she's definitely wormed her way into her heart, and
so you're now a family.
We are now a family, and she's great. She follows us. Whenever one of us leaves a room, very soon she follows.
Yes.
She likes her company. So I love her to death. I really, really do. And if anything were to happen to her, I'd be a mess.
So Nick's making a very important point that Jack began with, that honor your grief of your pet. They are members of the family. It's very insensitive when someone says, well, you can just get another puppy or another kitten. No, you can't. You may get someone in the future again, but that one is never replaced. And has that been your experience as well?
Absolutely. And I never thought this would happen. On one of those dogs, my wife was extremely attached to that dog. So she had the dog cremated, and we have the little urn at the house.
Good.
Now, I never thought that would happen. The other thing is that I have a little Cocker Spaniel female, Lady.
Sure.
Lady sleeps between me and Donna every night. She's the woman that came between us. And she's right up there every single night, right on the bed between the two of us.
I would say something funny, but I can't afford the FCC letter. So you're saved by the FCC on that one, Jack. And Nick's looking at me like, you darn right, I'll give you the letter too. You'll pay for it. But it's true. I have a friend that has he's a professional funeral director, and he has a company that does the cremation of the animals, does other stuff to preserve animals that have passed, taxidermist type thing. However it is you're going to walk through it, honor that. You don't have to go through it like Jack would. You don't have to go through it like I would, or that Donna or Gabby or Nick. Whatever your trail is, honor that. Honor that. So we're coming up to the holidays. And what are some of the favorite things for you to do to honor the people that you love who are no longer here?
That's a good question. For me, taking that moment of peace off by myself, this isn't something that I want to share with a whole family, because you get more people involved and you have people making their judgments.
Right.
This is one of those things to go off by yourself to wherever you feel connected to that person. And we all have something or some place that reminds you of that person, and do a meditation.
Right.
And I talk to them.
Good.
Because I believe that they're all a part of us.
Sure.
They're not permanently gone. Their memory is going to be with me until the day I die.
Sure.
So they're a part of who I am. So I don't have to grieve in the sense that I'm sad.
Okay.
They've changed forms, so to speak.
Sure.
But their spirit is with me. And I keep that spirit alive. So when I can clean it up and look at the whole person instead of just those moments that are so sad at first, then they're still alive. They're still with me.
And one of the things I do, this is my Catholic and Orthodox background. I'm a candle lighter, and in my room where I do meditations, I quite often like to light a candle for who's ever passed, and incorporate that in my meditation, sending them love and wishes of well-being. And that's an old and traditional Christianity. Whether you're talking about Eastern Orthodox, Roman Catholic, Episcopalian, Lutheran, Baptist, we believe in having the people pray for us as we pray for them, and we believe that it's a symbiotic relationship, and we continue to nurture each other spiritually, and you can't do that if you close them out of your mind. And so I agree with you about the prayer and meditation. And we're coming up to our last couple of minutes here. What would be a final message you'd like to give our listeners in 30 seconds or so?
Okay, one of the things that I did is I made a prayer, a new Christmas prayer, and that goes, God, help me let go of past hurts and pain, release the bad memories surrounding the holidays, help me finish my unresolved business from the past so that I can create the holidays of my choice in the future.
Oh, that's a fabulous prayer. Well, again, my guest tonight has been Jack Jimenez. He's a certified grief counselor. He's also a life coach and an artist. He's done a wonderful job. If you want to be in touch with Jack, of course, you can follow us on YouTube and Facebook, and you can go to the website and get in touch with us, and we'll put you in touch with Jack. In the meantime, thanks for spending another hour with us. Next week, we'll have Dr. John Smith with us, PhD. He's a psychotherapist and author. During this week, do something kind for somebody just for the heck of it. And if no one told you that they love you, let me be the first. God bless.
KCAA Loma Linda. Listen on 1050 AM, 102.3 FM, and 106.5 FM.